Well, would you look at what we dragged home today? Yep, it's a 2026 Chevrolet Impala Super Sport 409. The big old bruiser is back, and Chevy finally decided to give the people what they wanted. A full-size rear-wheel drive land yacht with some real grunt under the hood. None of that Turbo 4 nonsense. No CVT witchcraft. Just good old-fashioned cubic inches and tire smoke. Now, first impressions? This thing's a looker. Chevy took some inspiration from the 60s Impalas, and you can see it in the long, low body lines, the wide stance, and even the subtle Coke bottle shape over the rear fenders. Up front, you got a mean-looking grille with just enough chrome to keep the boomers happy, but not so much that it looks gaudy. And round back, 6 taillights. Yes, 6. Just like the old days. You don't mess with tradition. This one here, finished in marina blue with a black vinyl top, looks downright proper. They're offering it in a few other classic colors: ermine, white, tuxedo black, even Roman red. But this blue, chef's kiss. Wheels? You're looking at 18-inch rally-style wheels wrapped in some meaty rubber. But if you're feeling spendy, Chevy will sell you a set of 20-inch torque thrusts to really complete the look. Now, let's talk about what's under the hood. This ain't some rental car special with a V6 barely making enough steam to get out of its own way. No sir, this one's got a 409 cubic inch V8. Yep, they brought back the legendary W motor nameplate. It ain't exactly the same as the old 409s, but it's close enough for rock and roll. Puts out 475 horsepower and 490 lb-ft of torque. And it does it the right way. Naturally aspirated, high compression, and a lopey cam that'll make your neighbors reconsider their life choices. You got your choice of a 10-speed automatic or, get this, a Tremec 6-speed manual. That's right, a big-body SS sedan with 3 pedals. God bless America. Firing this thing up is an event. You turn the key, none of that push-button malarkey. And the 409 barks to life with a deep, nasty rumble. Give it a little rev, and it settles into that old-school lumpy idle, just sitting there, shaking like it's got somewhere to be. And when you put your foot down, oh buddy, this thing moves 0 to 60 in about 4.2 seconds, and the quarter mile disappears in 12.5. Not bad for a full-size car with a real trunk and enough room for 4 adults who still like cheeseburgers. Speaking of the trunk, yeah, it's got one. A real, honest-to-goodness trunk that'll swallow golf clubs, groceries, or a weekend's worth of questionable decisions. Inside, Chevy did a nice job blending the old with the new. You got modern amenities, big touchscreen, digital gauges, all that stuff. But it still feels like an Impala. The seats? Big, cushy, and covered in either leather or houndstooth, depending on how nostalgic you're feeling. And the steering wheel? 3-spoke, thin-rimmed, and just the right amount of retro. Out on the road, this thing just floats. But not in that numb, disconnected way like a modern luxury car. It soaks up the bumps, but you still feel what's going on. The suspension? Well, it ain't 1962 anymore, so it's got some modern wizardry underneath. Adaptive dampers, a limited slip diff, and enough chassis bracing to keep it from wallowing like a boat in rough seas. But don't get it twisted, this ain't no track car. It's a boulevard bruiser, a highway king, a rolling time machine that just so happens to be able to gap a Mustang if the need arises. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The price. Chevy ain't exactly giving these away. Base model Super Sport starts around $55,000. But if you check all the right boxes, manual transmission, upgraded wheels, a couple of fancy trim pieces, you're looking at low 60s real quick. Is it worth it? Well, considering this might be the last big V8 powered full-size sedan we ever see, I'd say yeah. And let's be real, you ain't buying this car to be practical. You're buying it because you remember what cars used to be. You're buying it because you want to hear a big block roar again. You're buying it because every time you pull up to a stoplight, some kid in a Turbo 4 import is gonna look over, rev his little sewing machine motor, and you're gonna remind him what torque feels like. So, what's the verdict? The 20,000 son, the Son 26. Impala SS409 is a proper muscle sedan. It's big, loud, and unapologetically American. It ain't perfect. Fuel economy is somewhere between bad and who cares. And the infotainment system is a little too fancy for its own good. But none of that really matters. What matters is how it makes you feel. And this thing makes you feel like a king. Chevy didn't have to build this car, but they did. And for that, we salute them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go find a back road and see just how much rubber this thing can leave behind.